Welcome to Chapter 2, Data Localization and its Implications. In this chapter, we will explore the importance of data localization under India's Digital Personal Data Protection Act, DPDP Act, which ensures that sensitive and critical personal data is stored and processed within India's borders. We'll discuss the regulatory framework, its impact on businesses, and the balance between data protection and the free flow of data across borders. Let's dive into understanding how businesses can navigate these new requirements. The concept of data localization. Data localization mandates that certain categories of data, particularly sensitive and critical personal data, must be stored and processed within India. The DPDP Act outlines this requirement as a measure to enhance data protection, safeguard privacy, and minimize the risks associated with international data transfers. Let's take a closer look at what this means. Sensitive personal data, SPD. Sensitive personal data includes a variety of information that, if mishandled, could cause significant harm to an individual's privacy. This includes data such as health information, medical records, treatment history, and health services provided, biometric data, fingerprints, retina scans, facial recognition data, etc. Financial information, bank account details, credit card information, and transaction history, sexual orientation, religious beliefs, and more. Critical personal data. This refers to data that is deemed essential for national security, defense, and public safety. This data requires absolute protection and, in some cases, must remain within Indian borders at all times. Importance of data localization. The core goal of data localization under the DPDP Act is to ensure that personal data, particularly sensitive data, is kept within the jurisdiction of Indian law. By doing so, India strengthens its control over personal data, enhancing citizens' privacy protections and providing the necessary legal recourse if the data is misused or mishandled. Section 16, Restrictions on Cross-Border Data Transfers. Section 16 of the DPDP Act plays a central role in regulating cross-border data transfers and imposing data localization requirements. This section specifies that sensitive personal data and critical data must be stored and processed within India. Sensitive personal data. Storage within India. Sensitive personal data, such as medical records, financial details, biometric data, and others, must be processed and stored within the borders of India. Exceptions. This data can be transferred outside India only under certain conditions, including obtaining the explicit consent of the data principal, ensuring adequate safeguards are in place, or if the data processing is necessary for fulfilling a legal obligation. Critical personal data. Absolute data localization. The DPDP Act mandates that critical personal data, as defined by the central government, be processed and stored solely within India. Special provisions. This provision is meant to ensure that data critical to national security, defense, or other public interests is safeguarded under the jurisdiction of Indian laws. Cross-border transfer of such data is highly restricted and may only be carried out with government authorization. Section 16 of 4 and 5, Specific Data Categories and Storage Requirements. Sensitive data categories. These are defined under the DPDP Act, and the law mandates their storage within India. These categories include health records, financial data, biometric data, and more. Critical data. Data related to national defense or other critical state functions is subject to stricter controls. Such data must be processed and stored exclusively within India, ensuring that it is safeguarded under Indian law. Practical implications for businesses. As businesses adapt to the requirements of the DPDP Act, particularly regarding data localization, they will face both challenges and opportunities. Let's examine how these provisions impact businesses, particularly in terms of infrastructure, compliance, and security. 1. Increased infrastructure costs. To comply with data localization laws, many businesses will need to invest in local data centers or cloud storage solutions within India. This may require significant investments, particularly for international businesses operating in India that need to adapt to the localization requirements. Example: an e-commerce company processing sensitive customer data, such as payment details and addresses, must ensure that personal data is stored within India to comply with the DPDP Act. Businesses operating in India, particularly those in sectors like healthcare, fintech, and e-commerce, must adapt their data processing practices to meet the requirements of the DPDP Act's data localization provisions. Increased infrastructure costs. Businesses may need to invest in local data centers or secure cloud storage solutions within India. For international organizations operating in India, this means ensuring that data servers and storage facilities meet local requirements, leading to potential higher costs in terms of data storage and security. Example: an e-commerce company processing sensitive customer data, payment details, addresses, must ensure that the personal data is stored in India to comply with the data localization requirements of the DPDP Act. Compliance and security challenges. Organizations that handle sensitive personal data will need to implement additional technical and organizational safeguards to comply with the localization provisions. This may include encryption, access control, and other privacy measures to protect data within Indian jurisdiction. Example: a healthcare provider collecting patient data for treatment must ensure that sensitive medical records are stored in servers located in India and follow stringent security measures to protect the data from unauthorized access. Cross-border data transfers. In cases where businesses need to share data with foreign entities, the DPDP Act mandates that the destination country must have data protection laws equivalent to India's, or businesses must implement additional safeguards such as standard contractual clauses, SCCs, or binding corporate rules, BCRs, to ensure compliance. Example: a financial institution sharing transaction details with a foreign payment gateway must ensure that the recipient complies with India's data protection standards. Balancing data localization with international data flows. While data localization is critical for protecting sensitive data, it also presents challenges, especially for businesses that rely on international data flows. Here, we examine how businesses can balance data protection with the need for data to flow freely across borders. Challenges in balancing data localization and cross-border data flow. Global business operations. Multinational businesses often rely on cross-border data flows for their operations. Complying with India's data localization laws can be difficult for these businesses, especially when they rely on international platforms for customer service or processing data globally. Technology and cloud services. The increasing reliance on cloud computing and global tech service providers complicates data localization. Companies using global providers like Amazon Web Services, AWS, or Microsoft Azure may need to adjust their data storage and processing practices to comply with the DPDP Act's data localization requirements. Legal and regulatory risks. Non-compliance with data localization provisions could result in significant fines and penalties. Given the regulatory powers granted to the Data Protection Board of India, DPB, businesses could face legal action for failing to adhere to the localization rules. Enforcement and regulatory oversight. The Data Protection Board of India, DPB, plays a crucial role in ensuring that businesses comply with the DPDP Act, especially in terms of data localization. The board has the authority to monitor, investigate, and enforce the law. Penalties for non-compliance. Organizations that fail to store sensitive data within India or transfer critical data outside the country without legal safeguards face substantial penalties under Section 33 of the DPDP Act. Data localization audits. The DPB can also conduct audits to verify compliance with data localization practices, ensuring that organizations follow the rules and take necessary corrective measures if needed. Key takeaways. Let's recap the key points regarding data localization under the DPDP Act. Sensitive and critical data localization. The DPDP Act mandates that sensitive and critical personal data must be stored and processed within India, unless specific exceptions apply. Business impact. Businesses must invest in local data infrastructure and implement robust data protection measures to comply with data localization requirements. Cross-border data transfer. Cross-border data transfers are permitted only when the receiving country has adequate data protection laws or when appropriate safeguards like SCCs or BCRs are in place. Regulatory oversight. The Data Protection Board of India is responsible for overseeing and enforcing compliance with data localization rules, and it has the power to issue penalties for non-compliance. Conclusion. The DPDP Act establishes important data localization provisions to ensure that sensitive and critical data remains protected under Indian jurisdiction. While these provisions present challenges for businesses, they are designed to safeguard privacy and security, ensuring that personal data remains protected. By adapting to these requirements, businesses can continue to operate internationally while ensuring that they meet India's data protection standards. In the next chapter, we will discuss the penalties for non-compliance with the DPDP Act, focusing on the consequences for businesses that fail to adhere to the Act's provisions, including those related to data localization and cross-border data transfers. Thank you for joining this session. In the next module, we will explore the resources and tools for compliance, diving deeper into how this vital code operates. See you soon. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more valuable legal insights and updates. youtube.com/prolegalminds. If you have any legal questions or need assistance, visit us at prolegalminds.com to connect with our expert team. We're here to help you navigate the complexities of the law with confidence. Stay informed, stay empowered. See you in the next session.